His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Samstha Acharya Seva the whole world with Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Tango Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayesha Bhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 1, Questions by the Guru, text number 9. Yada cha partha prahitaha sabhayam. Yada cha partha prahita sabhayam. Yada cha partha prahita sabhayam. Jagadguru Yani Jagada Krishna. Jagadguru Yani Jagada Krishna. Jagadguru Yani Jagada Krishna. Amrita Ayanani Natani Pumsam Amritayanani Natani Pumsam Amritayanani Rajoru Mene Shata Punya Leshaha Rajoru Mene Shata Punya Leshaha Rajoru Mene Shata Punya Leshaha Yada cha partha prahita sabhaya Jagadgururyani Jagada Krishnah Natani Pumsam Amrutayanani Rajorumene Kshatapunyaleshaha Yada Chapatha Prahitas Sabhayam Jagadgururyani Jagada Krishnah Natani Pumsam Amrutayanani Rajorumene Kshatapunyaleshaha Yada Chapatha Prahitas Sabhayam Jagadgururyani Jagada Krishnah Natani Pumsam Amrutayanani Rajorumene Kshatapunyaleshaha Yada Chapatha Prahitas Sabhayam Jagadgururyani Jagada Krishnah Natani Pumsam Amrutayanani Rajorumene Kshatapunyaleshaha Yada, when, cha, also, partha prahitaha, being advised by Arjuna, sabhayam, in the assembly, Jagadguruhu, of the teacher of the world, Yani, those, Jagada, went, Krishna, Lord Krishna, na, never, tani, such words, pumsam, of all men of sense, amrita ayanani, as good as nectar, Raja, the king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, Uru, very important, Mene, did consider, Shata, dwindling, Punyaleshaha, fragment of pious acts. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it is not so for the others who are completely bereft of the last farthing of pious works, of past pious works. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. Please repeat the translation. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it is not so for the others who are completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna, who is the spiritual master of the entire universe, accepted the duty of a messenger and deputed by Arjuna went to the assembly of King Dhritarashtra on a peace mission. Krishna is everyone's Lord. Yet, because he was a transcendental friend of Arjuna, he gladly accepted the role of messenger, exactly like an ordinary friend. That is the beauty of the Lord's behavior with his pure devotees. He reached the assembly and spoke about peace, and the message was relished by Bhishma and other great leaders because it is spoken by the Lord himself. But due to the exhaustion of the pious results of their past deeds, Duryodhana, or his father Dhritarashtra, did not take the message very seriously. That is the way of persons who have no credit of pious deeds. By past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country. But because the results of the pious acts of Duryodhana and company were dwindling, it became evident from their actions that they were sure to lose the kingdom to the Pandavas. The message of God is always like nectar to the devotees, but it is just the opposite to the non-devotees. Sugar candy is always sweet to a healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to persons suffering from jaundice. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyarishakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these are verses which are describing how did Vidura leave the palace of Hastinapura and go to Badrikashrama to meet Maitreya. And there he began to inquire from Maitreya about certain topics concerning self-realization. So the incidents leading to that are briefly described by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. The Pandavas returned after exile and they were denied their rightful claim to the kingdom of Hastinapura. And the Pandavas, because they are duty bound to live by ruling, this is the position of a Kshatriya. Kshatriya means one who protects others from harm. So a Kshatriya protects the people in general or the citizens of a particular country or province or state, and he maintains himself by collecting taxes from them. Of course, the taxes are also used for welfare activity for the people in general. This is civilized human society. Unlike that, in the forest or jungle, there is no such organization. There everyone lives on their own without any particular organization. So as soon as organization comes in, then there are rules, regulations, restrictions, etiquette, relationships, all those things come. So here we can see that the Pandavas, even though they were denied their rightful claim, they still did not want to fight against the Kauravas. Not because they were afraid or they were weak, but simply because they wanted to avoid unnecessary war. So, when the Pandavas were denied the rightful claim, they tried to negotiate for peace by themselves reducing their request from the entire kingdom to just 5 villages. Even that Duryodhana refused. And Pandavas, particularly Arjuna, who was very dear to Krishna. Arjuna requested Krishna to go to the assembly of the Kauravas and try to negotiate for peace. So now Krishna went there as Jagat Guru, the spiritual master of the whole world. Krishna's words are not like ordinary words. Even though Krishna's position is not known by everybody as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, still Krishna was worshipped by Yudhishthira as the greatest personality in one Rajasuya Yajna that Yudhishthira performed before this. So Yudhishthira wanted to declare to the whole world Krishna's exalted position. If not the Supreme Personality of God, and at least people will accept him as the greatest personality. So that was done already by Yudhishthira, because of which Krishna's position was already established. So that Krishna is now going to the assembly of the Kauravas and he is speaking on behalf of the Pandavas. Now his words actually are not ordinary. Even if somebody does not understand Krishna's position as Supreme Personality of Godhead, still, being the greatest personality, when he speaks, those words are full of value. So, it is described here that his words were accepted as pure nectar, or received as pure nectar by some people, like Bhishma. Whereas some other people, unfortunate people, they did not receive it in that way. Like Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, they did not take the words of Krishna very seriously. Why? Because it is described here, Shata Punya Leshaha. They had become bereft of all their pious credits, punya. Now this punya is due to past pious activities. Our life in this material world is governed by our actions. So by doing punya, a person, certain types of activities, pious activities, a person gets punya, or pious credits. And by doing sinful activities, a person gets papa, or sinful credits. So this punya and papa result in different kinds of good and bad results or reactions in the future for the person. This Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, certainly they had some pious credits, because of which they were born in a good family. They had Kshatriya qualities, particularly Duryodhana was trained up as a proper Kshatriya. And Duryodhana had the strength to fight against 10,000 soldiers at a time. And he particularly was expert in fighting with the club, Gada, because he had learned the particular skill from Balaram, Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram personally trained up Duryodhana in fighting with the club. So Duryodhana had so many credentials like this. Even Dhritarashtra, though he was blind by birth, still he was otherwise a very powerful Kshatriya. So both Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, even though they had pious credits, because of which they were able to even take charge as the caretaker kings. But still, when Krishna came and spoke on behalf of the Pandavas to negotiate for peace, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, both of them, could not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. Why? Because they had become bereft of all their pious credits. They had lost all punya. This is the misfortune of some people in this world, that by sinful activities performed knowingly or unknowingly, they become devoid of all punya. All punya is exhausted, and then they only have to face the results of their sinful activities as sinful reactions. So due to sinful reactions, a person is not able to properly discriminate what is for his self-interest. This is explained in the Bhagavatam elsewhere, that Durashaya ye bahirarthamaninaha, one who is very much bewildered by Maya, such a person, he simply uselessly tries to secure some happiness, some comforts, some power, some wealth by all wrong methods. Just like this Duryodhana, he was calculating that these Pandavas can be killed and then he can take over the kingdom. Now what Duryodhana is not able to understand is that merely by looking externally at their situation, the Pandava situation, he's thinking, oh, they have lost their father. They are at the mercy of the Kauravas, and they are still small boys, at least when they were young. This was the calculation Duryodhana was making. So they are in a disadvantageous position. So Duryodhana calculated, I can very easily plan and plot to kill them, and I can get the kingdom for myself. Now you see, the discrimination is lost as to merely calculating by external appearance, what is the relative position, what is the power, what is the strength, what is the advantage, without going into the actual credentials of the Pandavas, they were always performing pious activities. Therefore, there was so much of punya that Duryodhana is unable to understand. Even Dhritarashtra, he also, because of his affection for his sons, especially Duryodhana, he got carried away by Duryodhana's suggestions. And he also lost his sense of discrimination. So, this sense of discrimination, use of intelligence, this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Vyavasayatmika buddhi and avyavasayatmika buddhi. It's very important to understand the difference between these two. Everyone has intelligence. All human beings have intelligence. But how they utilize their intelligence, that depends on what is their punya or papa. One who is performing sinful activities, such a person, he loses his sense of discrimination, good sense of discrimination, and he makes all wrong calculations, wrong understanding. Just like even very learned people in our own modern society, you can see how due to sinful activities they are not able to understand some very simple basic understanding they are unable to have. Just like material nature, it's impossible to control material nature and try to manipulate material nature for our own purposes. But this basic truth is always hidden or unknown, or they miss this basic understanding when even learned people, they become sinful. Because of their sinful activities, they go on trying and trying and trying to exploit material nature. You see the foolishness of the sinful persons. They did so much hard work to go to the moon in the 60s and 70s. And then I read one news item, I was in high school, I remember very clearly, that what is the progress on this mission of going to the moon? Because big promises were made. We will build colonies, we will have intermediate space stations, big promises, big plans. And they even advertised honeymoon on the moon. You know, all these kind of things. And seriously, this was not some thing made on a lighter sense. It was very seriously taken. Real estate agents were selling plots on the moon in America. That seriously people had taken. And so all of a sudden, the news item I read, very small news item. What is that? One NASA scientist, he puts off one switch and says, no more moon research. Well, what happened to all your research, all your plans? And then next they start Mars mission. According to the scientists, Moon is the nearest planet. This nearest planet, it's whatever, nearest heavenly body. That itself you are not able to do anything, why are you aiming for something which is very far compared to the moon? What logic is this? This means they have lost their sense of discrimination. They are actually becoming greater and greater fools. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur very nicely says that Vidyara Vilase Kataina Kala Parama Sahase Ami. This attempt or endeavor for becoming learned by cultivation of material knowledge. What is material knowledge? In the sense that whatever knowledge we can gather through our senses and the limited amount of knowledge you can conceive in your tiny brain or tiny mind, that knowledge, however much one makes advancement, if one is not having pious credits, then all this knowledge will make one a big donkey. They will become like asses. And this very instance I cited actually proves it. You are not able to do anything on the moon. Why are you attempting for something which is very far, farther than the moon? More difficult. What is the logic? So, like this, they are becoming more and more foolish. So that's why Bhagavatam simply puts it in a very simple way. Durashaya, hopeless hope. They are never going to succeed, they are never going to understand, they are never going to be successful. But they keep on hoping against it. Why? Because the illusory energy is always putting them into illusion, greater and greater illusion. It's just like somebody is in darkness, then the attempt should be to come to light. But if instead of coming from darkness to light, they go more and more into darkness. This is what the Bhagavatam says. These people who are in darkness, they should actually come to light. But instead of coming to light, what are they doing? By all their scientific advancement, by all their technology, research, everything, they are going deeper and deeper into darkness. From darkness to more darkness. And they are thinking we are advancing. This is the foolishness of the entire world, particularly of these people who are bereft of pious credits, no punya, because they are sinful. So similarly, the example is already there in the Mahabharata. These Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, how they are making all wrong calculations. And it's not that they tried once and they failed and they learned their lesson. How many attempts did Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra make to kill the Pandavas? So many attempts. Every time they are thinking we'll be successful, we'll be successful, we'll be successful. They never succeeded. And finally Krishna is going on behalf of the Pandavas, avoid this battle. Because if you fight in the battle, you're going to completely lose. But the Kauravas are thinking, oh, battle, they're easily going to win. It's not that the Kauravas did not have experience of fighting against the Pandavas. You see, in the 13th year of exile of the Pandavas, they attacked the kingdom of Virata, one King Virata, where the Pandavas were taking shelter by living incognito. Now the Pandavas, incognito, they fought against the Kauravas and won against the Kauravas. And that the Kauravas did not know then immediately, but later on they came to know. Still, these Kauravas, they are calculating, especially Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, they are calculating, if we fight against the Pandavas, we'll easily win the battle. We'll easily win the battle. But what happened to your intelligence? So that's why Vyavasayatmika Buddhi means intelligence which is employed in Krishna consciousness, applied in spiritual advancement. It's a different kind of intelligence than the intelligence which is always making material calculations. A person who is sinful always is materialistic, makes material calculations, thinks that by material advancement I will secure more happiness, more satisfaction, more facilities, more knowledge, better control, more power. But actually we see just the opposite. No sinful person has ever become successful in this world. The laws of nature are always working. But these foolish people can never understand. And therefore, sinful persons are always on the path of degradation. Tanaham vishata kruran samsareshu naradaman Shipami ajasra ashubhan asurishveva yomishu. These are typically asuras. Asuras, demons, demoniac mentality, they are always making this material calculations. And Maya is making a donkey or an ass out of them. They are becoming more and more entangled in the thinking that now I am becoming more liberated. Then they are actually becoming more and more entangled. So, like that, it is described here very rightly by Shukadeva Goswami. The Krishna's peace mission was not properly received or understood by Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. And therefore, it is described here that they were very, very unfortunate. See, Krishna is not partial to the Pandavas. Krishna is not against the Kauravas. Because Krishna is above all such party feeling. For Krishna, every spirit soul is his part and parcel. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. All living beings. And he also says, Surda sarva bhutana. He is the topmost well-wisher of every living being. But still, unfortunate people, they, because of their sinful activities, they are unable to understand properly what is Krishna's position, what is Krishna's message, what is Krishna's, how Krishna is the well-wisher. They are unable to understand this. And therefore, instead of taking benefit or advantage of Krishna's instructions or Krishna's words, they always misunderstand and they try to work against Krishna. Duryodhana, he rejected Krishna's peace offer and thought that Krishna showed one of his universal forms to Duryodhana to make Duryodhana understand that Krishna who is offering this is not an ordinary person. So Duryodhana, after seeing the universal form of Krishna, is thinking Krishna is using some mystic power to trick Duryodhana. He is not considering Krishna's words very seriously. He is not taking it very seriously. That's what is mentioned here. So this is very, very unfortunate. This position is brought about by Duryodhana's own sinful activities. Therefore, scriptures say that if at all a person wants to ensure his self-interest, for himself he wants to do good, then first of all he has to discriminate between what is punya and what is papa. If he does not discriminate like that, then he will keep on performing sinful activities and his position will become more and more, he'll become more and more entangled. He'll become a fool. He'll be befooled by Maya more and more and more. So Duryodhana's position is like that. And ultimately we see in the Bhagavatam it described how Duryodhana was completely vanquished. Completely. And Dhritarashtra, even after all his sons were completely destroyed, still he had hope to live at the expense of the Pandavas. And Vidura came to Dhritarashtra and spoke very strong words by which Dhritarashtra was able to come out of his illusion. And Vidura was able to save Dhritarashtra. Of course, Duryodhana and the other persons who died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were delivered by Krishna by being present on the battlefield. That is Krishna's mercy. That even though, because Krishna is always looking for some way of delivering all the conditioned souls in this world. That is Krishna's mercy or compassion. So Duryodhana and all the Kauravas, they were fortunate to die in the presence of Krishna in the battle of Kurukshetra. So they were delivered. And the devotees, they are not thinking that why the sinful persons, why were they delivered by Krishna? You see, that is not the thinking of the devotees. Devotees are also like Krishna. Surada Sarvadehina. In the third canto of the Bhagavatam, it is described the quality of a devotee. He is the well-wisher of everyone. So, those who are unfortunate, they neglect to take the protection of Krishna or accept Krishna's words or follow Krishna's instructions, and they are under the stringent control of the material nature. And material nature is impartial. Those who perform sinful activities, they will be punished by being afflicted by sinful reactions in so many ways. Mother Nature will actually punish such sinful persons. But Krishna, he is the topmost well-wisher, so time and again he comes in incarnations or he sends representatives of pure devotees to deliver even such unfortunate persons. That is Krishna's mission in this world. This topic, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Prabhupada.